So let's go ahead and dive in. So I need to introduce myself to you guys. My name is Mac. I'm part of the product education team here. I've been with the company since 2017, so I know the product like the back of my hand. If you've been to one of my webinars before, it is good to see you back. If we've not had the pleasure of doing one of these sessions together, I'm glad you're a first timer and can't wait to share this info with you guys. Okay, diving right in, like I said, our agenda today, we are going to be going through smart files and automations. So what are smart files? How are they different from automations? How do you use those two tools in HoneyBook together, hand in hand, to build your perfect, most streamlined, most beautiful process you could ever think of? And then we'll go through 10 minutes at the end for questions. Okay. Let's dive in. So, what are smart files? I'm hoping and praying you guys have been in one of my sessions in the past and you've heard me say this a million times, but smart files are essentially everything that traditional files can do all in one file now, which is to say a smart file is simply a file that can do anything. So by nature, it is defined by what you tell it to do. So if you're telling the file, I need you to be an invoice, it's just an invoice. If it's doing that one task, that's all it is. But it can do so much more. So it is simply defined by what you tell it to do. That's all it is. So it's not that deep, right? Like it's just going to do what you need it to do. It's defined by your process. We're putting you in control. Okay, so one of the big mindset shifts I need you guys to, I want to invite you guys into is in yesterday's world, and y'all, HoneyBook was guilty of this too, but this exists outside of the HoneyBook system, right? In yesterday's world, before SmartFile existed, we as business owners were letting our process be defined by the tools that we used. Point blank. Your process was defined by the tools that you're using because there were rigid, kind of formatted, predetermined expectations of what a file could do. An invoice was a way to pay. A contract is a legal agreement. A questionnaire is a place for them to answer questions. Now, with smart files, we want you guys to shift your mindset. We want to invite you to shift your mindset to put you in control. We're putting you in the driver's seat. You now get to determine what your process looks like. Okay, so in partnership with HoneyBook, we're giving you full autonomy. We're giving you the power of choice to be able to define what your process is, invite your clients into that process, decide what that process is, tell HoneyBook what that process looks like, and invite your clients into that experience with you. And that's what we're talking about when we mention client flows. We're talking about the progress of working with your clients. We're talking about that relationship with them and those flows of interactions that you have with them. How do you make that? The word flow means seamless, right? So we're talking about seamless client interactions here. And how do you build that in HoneyBook? So again, simply put, smart files are defined by what you tell them to do. So it could be as simple as a one action file, and it could be as dramatic and game changing as a complete welcome packet that introduces your services, introduces and sets expectations with your clients, allows them to select services, pay, and sign all in the same document. Okay, so it can do as much or as little as you need it to do. It's defined by you and your process. You're in the driver's seat. Okay, so that's what smart files are. What can they actually do? I've been talking a lot about what they can do. Okay, really simply, this is a look at the builder and the different blocks that you can add when you're creating a template. And I did mention we covered transforming templates and how to use templates, how to set up your smart files in last week's session. So if you didn't have the chance to catch that, definitely recommend going and checking that out. I can actually pop the link for that into the chat. We have the recording here for you guys. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now if you want to go and check that out. But this is a glimpse into the builder, okay? So you can have text, you can have questions, you can have images and video. So we're adding video into the mix now. We've got dividers, which are just spacers to space things out in your documents. Company info block is going to pull directly from your company settings and pull in your social links as well. And then layouts are basically just pre-composed formats that allow you to add in any of these different blocks in just a pre-formatted way. Okay, and then of course we have our traditional actions, which includes service selection, contracting, invoice, and payment. Okay, so the files can do everything, right? Like we've been talking about. So I'm slowly introducing you guys to this concept. So it can do all of this. So it's simply defined by what you want it to do, right? Okay. So how is this different? As soon as I start to talk through this, my clients, my members start to get like, okay, how is this different from automations? That's like the big question that I get when we're talking through this. Okay, so smart files versus automations. When we're talking about the idea of smart files, we're talking about combining steps, okay? Combining steps into one single file, which is another way of saying a single client interaction. Okay, so that's combining steps. So where can you afford to, in your process, combine steps, combine actions, combine getting information, combine sharing information? How can you build one file that represents a single client interaction so you're reducing that back and forth and you're reducing any bottlenecks in your business? Okay, that's what we're talking about with smart files. When we're talking about automations, we're talking about separate steps into multiple interactions across a timeline with your clients. Okay, so that's the difference. Smart Files is about consolidating into one single interaction. Automations is about breaking up those interactions and setting time triggers in your timeline of when you want those things to happen. Okay, so splitting up steps versus combining steps. That's kind of the difference between the two. But I feel like that's kind of the simplest way I can put it. Maybe even take a screenshot of this slide if this resonates with you, or if you want to use this as like your North Star as you're going back to it. That is kind of the best way that I can define it. Now, what has changed in adding smart files as an ability to, now you can obviously send a smart file in automation. So how does that change it? Well, now you can share invoices. In the previous version of automations, you could only send a brochure or a questionnaire. So brochures allowed for questions, content, images, and service selection. Questionnaires were obviously just questions. So now we're adding invoicing to the mix. Contracts is still to come. So you guys stay tuned for that. We're still kind of deciding the logistics of how to figure that out. That's why I'm not mentioning it, but invoices is like ready to go. So this is a game changer in terms of your booking process. So get excited. The main example I'm going to show us today is how to immediately reply to your inquiries with a smart file. So whether that means you want to send an invoice right away because you're selling maybe an evergreen course and you want them to be able to pay and get access to that through submitting a contact form, we'll go through some info on that. Or if you simply just want to send a welcome packet, kind of introducing and setting expectations with your clients, maybe some client testimonials, a welcome video, and allow them to select services. Or even just a simple, hey, thanks so much for reaching out email. However you want to do it, whatever makes the most sense for your process, we're going to just go through the idea of simply replying to an inquiry today. If you want to explore the idea of building a really hands-off booking experience, that is a different session that we're going to do in a couple of weeks. So I am going to post, where's my link to it? I got to go grab that for you guys really quick. So obviously this is our part of our Smart Files series. So we do have other sessions that are coming up, and the really hands-off booking experience is going to be a different session. So I'm posting that in the chat now. So you guys can go and check out the other sessions that we have if you're really interested in a deeper dive on like a hands-off version of sending an invoice and what that might look like. That session is coming up in a couple of weeks. Okay, cool. And a reminder, if you guys have questions, please don't put them in the chat. I want to see them in the Q&A section. And if somebody else has your question and they've already asked it, just give it an upvote so that it gets pushed to the top of the list when I go to answer questions at the end of the session. Cool. Okay, so we've gone through what are smart files. We've gone through how they differ from automations. We've gone through what's new. So what has not changed are the triggers and timing. I know a lot of you folks out there are hoping that there's a lot more customization with like if-then functionality. We're not quite there yet. Obviously, making steps to give you the best option with your files is the first step. So it's not something that we're actively working on right now. We're still focusing on perfecting this file experience for you guys. So the triggers and timing have not changed. That's all as you know it today. So we're just really going to be talking about how to consider adding smart files into that process for you. Okay, if you have attended one of my automation sessions in the past, you know my 5 tips for success, but I'm going to go through them again, okay? And I know I'm just sharing slides right now. We will get into the product in just a little bit, but I think that level setting at the beginning with words on a screen can kind of help prepare you for the journey we're about to go on in the product and help you it's a little bit more bite-sized this way, okay? So the first step that we're going to be going through is setting your project types, especially when you are talking about wanting to automatically, but still personally reply to your inquiries. These project types are going to be a game changer. So I want you to start here. When we're setting up automations, the first step, actually, the first 4 steps, I want to say, the first 3 steps are not even in the automations tab. Okay, so just keep that in mind. There's a lot of pre-work that goes into this. And that's why we're doing an hour-long session on it. Okay, so we're going to start with our project types. The next step is going into your contact form and making sure that your project types are connected to your contact form, especially when we're talking about replying to inquiries automatically. The contact form is how those folks are getting into the system. So we need to make sure that this process is all connected there. Okay, so first step, set up your project types. Second step, we're going to go through connecting the contact form. The next step is making sure that your templates are set up. So whether you want to send a file to your client or you want to send an email to your client, those templates need to be set up first before you get to the automations tab. Okay, the final step there, or not final, but getting towards the end, will actually be building the automation. So we'll spend a good chunk of time today going through your options there, how to think about that, what your options are, how to approach it for your business, depending on your specific process. And then the final step is making sure that your automation is actually connected to a project. There are different kind of options depending on your process going through here. So again, the biggest the biggest kind of mindset shift that I want you guys to take here is the system is only going to be as bulletproof as your process. And I can't tell you what your process is. I can encourage you. I can give you all the advice that I can, but your process is going to be unique to you. And by the way, you're the master of it. And that's why your clients are hiring you. And I want you to take pride and ownership of that process. Tell HoneyBook what you want it to do because you own that. And then invite your clients into that process with you. Okay. So I really want to invite you guys to shift your mindset. Instead of HoneyBook telling you how to run your business, I want you to start telling HoneyBook what you need it to do for you. Take pride in that ownership of that process and invite your clients into that experience with you. And when you do that, these 5 steps are going to make so much more sense because you're not going to be wondering, how do I do it? You're going to be confident in what you know you need to do, and you're going to tell the system what to do, okay? That's the part of this that is tricky because I can't tell you how to run your business. I can't tell you what process works best. You guys have to be the experts in that, and I know you can do it. You've been doing it. It's just a matter of really owning that and taking that sense of ownership and then bringing that to the HoneyBook system, okay? Let's keep going here. Let's finally check it out. So First step we're going to go through is your project types, remember. Okay, so I'm going to come over to the company settings. I'm going to come down to preferences, and right here I've got my project types. Okay, so right here it explains it. Stay organized by personalizing your project types to reflect the work you offer. So this is really about how can you, based on the HoneyBook system and on your process, how can you define what you do as a business owner? Maybe these are your packages. The idea here, project types, right? This is like the types of clients that you work with, the types of jobs that you do. So if you are in a very niche field, for example, if you are a wedding photographer, or a venue owner, you have very specific types of packages that you offer. You're already niche enough. You wouldn't want one project type here to just say wedding photography. You would want it to say gold package, silver package, bronze package, elopement, engagement shoot. And that's kind of where you draw the line. So you're going to have 5 project types. Now, if you are, I'm just going to use the photography example again, because I think it kind of helps make it more cohesive. If you are just a photographer who does weddings as one of your options, but you also do newborns, you do boudoir, you do engagements, elopements, family shoots, all of that stuff, those will actually be your project type. So depending on the different jobs. So again, if you're a corporate coach, or if you're a corporate coach, you would want those to be your packages. Again, you've got corporate package A, corporate package B, so on and so forth. But if you're just a general business coach and corporate clients are one of your types of clients, that's just going to be one of your project types here. Okay, so I hope this is starting to kind of make sense. Another example, just really quick. Like I worked with a client once, and she was a dog walker, and she serviced 3 different neighborhoods, and she had 3 different package types. So we set up San Jose package 1, San Jose package 2, San Jose package 3, San Francisco package 1, San Francisco package 2. Okay, so depending on your process, you're going to set up these project types to reflect what you offer as a business owner. Okay, again, this is one of those things I can't tell you what to do, but I hope I'm getting the gears turning here. Okay, so this is step 1. Get these project types set up. You can add as many as you want. Hover to delete if these don't apply to you. Hover to edit if you need to change them. Okay, the biggest thing here, hit save. Hit save before you X out, or else HoneyBook's going to lose it. Actually, I don't even know if that's true. It'll probably automatically save it, but definitely hit save before you leave it, okay? So go ahead and save it out, and then you're going to be looking to the contact form. So we're getting into step 2 now, okay? When you go to the contact form, you have the option to add connected questions, okay? So these are linked questions. So when you add questions to the contact form, when I go to hit this add button, you can add custom questions or suggested. When you click the suggested option here, it's going to show you basically the options to do linked smart fields. Okay, so when your client puts information in here, it's going to pull into HoneyBook in a way that can be reused. So it'll save in the project details. It'll then be able to be added into contracts and things like that. So these are your options when we're talking about adding kind of smart information and smart questions. The one I want you to especially pay attention to is going to be this project type question, because remember, we just added our project types and customized those. So we want to make sure we're asking our clients basically to indicate to us, what type of client are you? What are you interested in working on with me? Okay, so right down here, I've got my project type question, and I've reworded it. So you can word it to say whatever you need. So again, you can take that into consideration when you're setting up your project types. Maybe it's what packages are you interested in? What services are you interested in? Maybe it's simply, what can we help you with? For my dog walking example, what neighborhood are you in and what package are you interested in? Those kinds of things. So you can ask this question, and then the drop down is going to be your project type list. You'll notice you cannot edit the list here, which is why I have you start in the company settings, editing it there. So maybe by the time you get here, there's a little bit of back and forth, right? You decide you want to word the question in a certain way that affects the project types that you offer. So you go a little back and forth, but those are the first 2 steps. Okay. There are options when you're connecting your project types to the contact form. So the first option is adding the project type question. However, if it does not make sense to you or for your process to put that control in your client's hands to say, what services are you interested in? And you would rather say, anyone who fills out this contact form needs to be a X, Y, or Z client, rather than adding the project type question. So I can delete this. I'm going to pop up to the settings. And down at the bottom here, I see I have the option to assign a project type. So this is to say you can have multiple contact forms. So if you want to have a contact form for your wedding clients and you want to have a contact form for everyone else, you can have those two different forms. In one, you can ask the project type question, and another, you can assign the project type. However you want to do it. Maybe you want to assign project types to all of the contact forms based on, the type of client that would be accessing that form. Okay, so in the settings, you can come down here and you can say straight up, everyone who's going to be filling out this form, I know that they're going to be my online course clients because this form is specific to online courses. It's very simple. This is where I sell my evergreen services. Again, we're talking about that all-in-one booking flow. So I'm going to get into more of this in the other session. But if you want to sell your online course, maybe you just have a very simple name, email, how did you hear about this course? And then you assign the online course project type here so that in the automation, you can trigger them to get access to that. Okay. We'll keep going. Obviously, the example here that I'm going to be running with for the majority of the time is talking about replying to inquiries. So for this specific case, I'm actually not going to assign a project type. And I do actually want to keep my question in here with project type list. So what type of project are you looking for? This isn't how I want it to be worded. I like, what can we help you with? Okay, so I've got this good. I want to make sure I publish my changes. That'll push it live wherever I have embedded that link. And you guys, in terms of sharing the contact form, just as a refresher, you can attach it to your website. So everyone who's inquiring through your website fills out this form and gets automatically added to HoneyBook. The other option is your direct link down here. So this is what I recommend all of you guys use as a non-website inquiry. So if you have folks coming in social, people DMing you, if you want to have this as your link in bio, if you want to save this as a note in your phone so that when people text you, you can reply with the link to your contact form. This is basically your catch-all for non-website inquiries. Okay, so if it's on your website, you're going to embed it. If it's a non-website inquiry, I want you to make sure that this direct link option is available. Okay, that way you're making sure that there's one funnel and one source of truth for getting all of your client information into the HoneyBook system. Okay, the third step here. So we went through project types. Now we know how to connect our project types and the two options that we have there for the contact form. And now we need to make sure that our templates are set up. As I mentioned, we already did our transforming templates session last week. So if you missed that, go check it out in our help center. You can just search transforming templates in the help center and it'll pull up the recording of that so you can watch it, because we do a full hour-long deep dive into how to build and set up your smart files, how to combine steps, and how to really approach that. So I'm not going to go into too many details around that. I'm really focusing on making sure that as you're going through the 5 steps of building out your automations, you make sure you don't miss this step. So by the time you get to building your automation, it's going to ask you, what do you want to do? And maybe you want to send a file. And anytime you send a file, you need to send an email. If we remember, anytime you send a file in HoneyBook, it's coming as an attachment basically to an email. So you need to make sure that email messaging is ready to go, and you need to make sure the file that's going to be connected to that is also ready to go. Okay, so as just one quick example to scroll through and give you an idea of what we can do here, this is like a very all-inclusive to the nines, crazy experience to build out in Smart Files. This is a template that is available in the template gallery if you want to go check it out and use it as inspiration. This is a great one to use or to check out. We've got the first page here kind of welcoming them and introducing them to what is to come in this file. The next page is setting expectations, letting them know how it's going to go, the steps of working with you, how we stay organized and communicate, really level setting and setting these expectations with your clients. This is a huge, huge game changer in your process. Please do this if you're not doing this with your clients today. The Smart File experience, again, this is part of what I'm talking about when we're talking about inviting your clients into your process. You need to let them know what you're doing. So you need to know what you're doing first and foremost. That's that sense of ownership, right? And then inviting your clients into that process means you need to let them know what you're doing because they're hiring you to be the expert. So be proud of that. Know your experience, build it out in HoneyBook, let them know what's going on. Here's what this file is going to do. Here's how I operate. And here's what I need you to do. And great, you did it. And here's what you can expect from me now. Here's the next steps. Okay. Keep those things in mind as you're building out your process. Keep going with this example. She's going to go ahead and share some client testimonials. Maybe you even want to include video here with your clients and be able to share that out with them. The testimonials, we can go through frequently asked questions, the services. So we're sharing services here. Maybe right off the bat, you want to showcase your pricing with a client and show what is available to them. Maybe you want to allow them to select those services. Maybe you even want to allow them to pay the invoice based on the service selections that they just made. Continue on to payment. And then again, we're setting next steps with them. So for me, I'm like, this is like my powerhouse golden document. This is what I want to send to all my inquiries because it's kind of a sales pitch. It sets expectations. It allows them to move forward with booking right away if they're ready, and it allows them to book a call if they're not. So this is my like perfect example of what I want to send to my clients. And now I just need to hop into my email templates down below and make sure that I have an email set up for replying to my new inquiries. So I've got my new inquiry document here, and it's really setting expectations. Thanks so much for reaching out. So excited to be working with you. I'd love to see if we're a good fit and we can serve you. To give you an idea of our services and minimum price points, attached is our brochure. On average, our clients are investing $1,200 for a full project. However, we work with a lot of budgets. Okay, so we're setting expectations here. This is still a very personalized way to interact with your clients. And you can get even more personalized in that welcome packet by including a welcome video where it's your face introducing yourself and really getting to meet your clients as face-to-face as you can. So we can keep these interactions personalized. This is like a little nugget for you guys. With Smart Files and automations, the pull, the resistance that I get from my members, from my clients is, but I don't want to lose the personal interaction. I don't want to lose that personal touch. I don't want my clients to feel like a robot is emailing them. I don't want to lose that. How do I make sure that I don't overwhelm them with information? Okay, so this is again where I want you to take that mindset shift and take pride in your process and know what works for you. Does it work for you to individually, uniquely reinvent the wheel every time someone inquires? What's your rate of booking for those folks? How many of those folks end up ghosting you when you've invested an hour already coming up with something really personalized to get to know them? How can you maybe afford to shift that process so that before your client has paid you anything, you are giving them all the information that they need, but you're not uniquely invested every single time because you'd rather take that energy where you are uniquely invested and put that towards your clients that have already invested in you. They've already submitted payment. They're already in the process of working with you. Okay, so these are just some mindset shifts I want to kind of encourage you guys or invite you guys to think about. And maybe it does work for you to have those unique interactions. Of course, you can still build that in HoneyBook, but I'm hoping that you're here today for an automations webinar because you want to learn where you can afford to kind of let go of the reins a little bit and maybe not be involved at every single step of the process along the way, okay? It's enough preaching to you for now. We want to make sure that we have our file set up and our email set up. So we need to, again, know our process well enough to know what files need to be shared when, what emails do we need to use when we're sharing those files with the clients. And if it's just an email, we need to kind of decide where those emails are going to fall and make sure that those are all built out here. So we really need to be thinking about our process and knowing what that looks like. Again, you don't have to feel like this needs to be perfected before you go to the automations tab. I'm just kind of walking you guys through the steps. I guarantee there is going to be some back and forth between the automation section and your template section once you get there, just to make sure that everything is really set up the way you need it to be. Because once you're in the automations tab, it'll kind of guide your thinking a little bit and allow you to see where maybe you're missing a step and you need to go back to the templates and build it out. Okay, so that is totally fine. I see people are in the chat wondering how to opt into Smart Files. Meredith, love that. Thank you so much. Yes, I definitely share the link, so I can share it now. I'm going to go ahead and send that out. It's going to be pinned at the top of the chat, and it's going to be a slide out window at the bottom of the screen. So get ready to take advantage of that. When you click that, it'll opt you into Smart Files. So if you haven't opted in yet, we're not forcing everyone into the experience, right? We're giving you, everyone at this point has the option to opt in. So if you don't see it in your account, it's because you have not opted in yet. So go ahead and click that link and it'll take you through. You just need to actually click a button that says like try it or get started or something like that. So that link should take you through that process so you get access. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Meredith. Okay, let's keep going. So we went through building out your project types, connecting your project types to your contact form, making sure that your templates are set up. Y'all, we are getting into automations. Now we're finally going to go into the automations tab because this is our fourth step in the process. Once we've done this pre-work, now we're safe to enter the automation zone and figure out what we want to do here. So when we are building out an automation, we start with this new automation button, and it's going to drop us off in our automations builder. When we go to build an automation, first we start with the action that we want to trigger. So we have options here. We can send an email. We can create a task. So this is an internal task, okay? This is not going to trigger anything for your clients. This is just a reminder for you or your team, okay? The next one here is sending a file, whether that's a smart file or an old version of a file, it's sending a file. Okay, so really three options. And again, when we send a file, remember, it always comes with an email. So you got to make sure that your email and the file are already built out. So really just those three options. Okay, so you need to think to yourself, are you trying to send a smart file to this client, which again has a lot of functionality, all the same functionality that your previous old legacy files did. So highly recommend doing that because it's like a way better version. Or you can send just a normal email to the client, or you can create an internal task. So it could be, hey, reminder, you need to call this client if you haven't heard from them, to kind of add that personal touch. So again, using automations to step away from the wheel, give your clients the ability to maybe like pull the trigger on the next step if they need to. But if they don't, you're setting yourself a reminder to say, hey, this client's going to be a little bit trickier of a sell. They're not ready to move forward right away. And a call at this point might help kind of push them over the line and make sure that you're really putting your best foot forward. Okay, so again, really leaning into that space of letting go of control where you don't need to have control, leaning on your system, trusting your own process, and also maintaining that personal interaction and not letting anything slip through the cracks. That's really the objective here when we're talking about automations. We're talking about building a bulletproof process. So Okay, so you've got your different actions. Like we said, our objective today is to reply to an inquiry with a smart file that we just looked at, and it's going to give them the ability to go through, learn who we are, read client testimonials, maybe get a welcome video, go through the process of selecting the services they want to move forward with us, and even move forward with payment as well. So we're going to go ahead and say we want to send a file, send a smart file. And then the way we find it, so this is another thing that we go through in our orientation session. We went through this last week as well. We now have the ability, because your files can do everything, we need to have a way to keep them better organized. So we've allowed you guys to search with filters, and we allow you to organize into folders as well as save favorite files. So if you have consistent files that are your favorites and you want to give them a little star icon, you can do that so that they're super easy to find. That's what I've done with our service guide that we were checking out earlier. So it makes it really easy to find. We also have other folders that you can create so that you can easily get to what you need without just having an all view like this that maybe feels a little more overwhelming, but those thumbnail images do help as well. Okay, so I know this is the file that I want to send out. So I already chose that. It's showing me the template right here. If I needed to change it, I could again click into that process. I could also change the action type if I need to change it. And now I need to select the email that this is getting sent with. And I know my inquiry plus brochure is the one that I was just reading through, and that's the one I want to send. If I wanted to edit the template for this email, I can do this from right here. So again, they don't have to be perfected. You're not going to be able to edit the file that you're sending from here, but if you want to edit and quickly just tweak the language and the automation slightly from something you already have, you can preview and edit, read through what you've got, edit this email. It's got this little notification up at the top that by editing this email inside of the automation, you're disconnecting it from the master template. So any changes you make here will not impact the master template. It is simply for the application of this one use case inside the automation. Whatever changes you make will only apply when it's sent with this automation. Okay, so you can adjust it there if you need to. I already checked mine before we did this, so I know that mine are good to go. And then the next step here is deciding when you want this thing to happen and what is going to trigger it. So when we are in the mindset of wanting to reply to an inquiry, we're going to say 0 days after automation is activated, because on the previous page, I can connect the contact form. So I'm going to get into that in just a couple seconds. But just to go through and show you guys, you can do as many minutes, hours, days, weeks after or before a certain trigger happens. And there is a massive list here. I'm not going to have time to go through and define all of these for you guys, but we have an amazing Help Center article that goes through and defines each individual trigger, what it means, and what it's going to do for you. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now for you guys to check out. If you want to understand more about the triggers and what they do, check out that link in the chat that I just posted. I'm going to say I want this to happen 5 minutes after automation is activated, and I know that my automation is going to be activated via the contact form submission. So that's what I'm going to do there. And then I'm going to just quickly add a follow-up task for myself to say, like, has client replied yet? Call them. And I'm going to say this is 3 days after previous step is complete. And that's all I want to do. I just want to build a fail-safe for myself. When my clients inquire, I want to be able to get them the information as quickly as possible, give them the ability to move forward with the next step if they're ready to do that. And if they're not, I have a backup plan. I'm going to follow up with them 3 days later if I still haven't heard anything. And that's when I can maybe have that more personalized touch. Maybe instead of having this be a reminder for myself, I would want to send an email to say, hey, I know you inquired 3 days ago. I just wanted to check in and make sure you got all your questions answered. And that feels super personal, but it's an automatic email that goes out. And what I can do, actually, let me do that. That sounds way better. So I'm going to build this email. So you can even create a new template from here. So you would say following up, and you could say like checking in, the whole 9 of what I just said. Okay, so that's the email we want to send. And we're going to say previous 3 days after the previous step is complete. And I'm going to say require approval before sending this. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to remind me, hey, you need to send this email if the client hasn't replied yet. But it gives me the autonomy that if the client has in fact replied, I don't want to send this email. But I'm still building that fail safe for myself to have this intention to follow up with the client. It's going to be a super personalized email that says, hey, you reached out 3 days ago. So I want to follow up and see if you have any questions about what I sent your way. Let me know if you'd rather schedule a call. You can do that here and even link out to your scheduling. Okay, I'm totally spitballing here. We have a lot of options, but you're going to do approve before sending. So this still gives you the autonomy to say, oh, the client did reply at first. So I'm not going to actually send this email because the language is not right for folks who have actually followed up with you. Okay, cramming on time here. I'm going to pop back into the previous page where all of my automations live. And this is where I can connect via the contact form. So I'm getting into the 5th step here. This is all about how do we connect the automation? Now we've built the automation. How do we connect it? Okay, so you can connect it to a project. When I'm talking about connecting it, how do you connect it to a project? And a project is just a client or the job, right? So how do we connect it? You can connect it through the contact form. So this is why your project types are so crucial, you guys, because you can say, everyone who is a online course inquiry, I want them to go through this 2-step process. Or you can say, everyone who's not my online course inquiry, I want to go through this process. But my folks who are in the online course, I know I want to put them through a different like automation follow-up because I want to give them access to just paying for the course and getting access right away. Okay. So maybe you can do it that way. Another option here, so you can specify by project type. You can say this person equals this automation. So again, really leaning into that personal interaction. If they're inquiring about these services, I want to send a welcome guide that explicitly states the things that are important to someone inquiring about those services. You can be really customized, really personalized, really intuitive with your process by using these project type assignments. Okay, the other option, if you're like, whoa, Mac, this is getting way too complex for me. I just want my clients to inquire, and my pricing is relatively simple. And I just want them to be able to view my 3 packages that I offer. Anyone who fills out the contact form, I just want them to get that smart file from me that sends it over, welcomes them to my process, and shares my 3 services, and does allow them to check out because I kind of sell like 3 products or something like that. They are custom products, but that's what I sell, whatever. Okay, so you're going to default for the contact form so that everyone who fills out the contact form is going to go through this 2-step process with you. Okay, so that's one option. The final, actually, those are 2 options. So you can connect to the contact form from project type. And remember, you can assign the project type to a contact form, or you can allow your clients to tell you what type of project they are. And then you can default to the contact form. So you just say, generally speaking, anyone who inquires through the contact form, I want them to be entered into this automation. So that's how you automatically reply to inquiries using automations. The final option for applying an automation to a project is to manually do it. Okay, so this is no longer living in that space of automatically replying to inquiries, because you have to connect it to the contact form, what we were just talking about, if you want them to automatically get the automation applied to their project upon submitting the contact form. You have to do it the way we just talked about. There is space, however, for you to say, I want to reply. We're talking about that use case where you really like to reply personally to your inquiries. Maybe you have an email template drafted up that says 90% of it, but you like to just tweak it that extra 10% before you send it off to them. So you're still creating a process that's repeatable for yourself using templates, but you don't necessarily want to automatically send that. That's fine. You do want to then automate the next steps coming up, because you want to have that first really personalized first touch, and then you want to go into an automated process afterwards or something like that. Again, I'm just spitballing examples here. you do have the option to manually apply an automation inside of a project. This could even work for, let's say you have that automatic first 2 steps, but then from there, everyone's process is kind of different and every, person kind of gets a different flow with you, but you do have those built out in automations as well. So after they go through those first 2 steps, everyone kind of goes through those. Then you want to get really granular and automatically apply, or rather manually apply an automation based on the conversation that you've had with them. That's when this comes into play. Okay. So you add the automation here. And there's 2 options. Again, you can quick apply or you can customize and apply. So quick apply is just going to go ahead and say, hey, if the first step is happening now, you're going to send that today, right now. So the quick apply does that. Customize and apply allows you to just pop in and see, what was this automation again? What did I have set up? Let me see if there's a step in here that doesn't apply to this client that I want to delete. Let's see if there's a step in here that I need to add based on this specific individual. It just allows you to take what you've already built in the automation and tweak it slightly and personalize it for this client before you apply it. It's also the way that you can double check your work, because quick apply, again, is going to just trigger it to happen right away. If that first step is like, send it now, you're going to send it now. For example, this one's overdue, so it would have sent it right away. It's just a good way to check in and check your work and see what you're about to apply to the project. You can also customize it. So again, remember, we can preview and edit the template. We can change the timing, whatever we need to do, and then apply it to the project. Okay, you guys, that was everything I wanted to cover. I so appreciate you coming and joining me here on the session. I hope it was helpful for everyone, and hopefully we'll see you next time.